we're going to be exploring this ledge. I'm calling this a wall, and I'll fill you in more as we go throughout the video, but I believe this is a massive ancient rock wall built by an ancient civilization here in this country, on this continent, and it's been flooded and buried / destroyed. Let's start right here. We are on Ohio Department of Natural Resources.gov. Nelson Kennedy Ledges State Park. This area was of vital importance to the Native American tribes. Here's a plaque from the Georgia Historical Society and Chieftains Museum Incorporated. At this house's core is the 1790 log home of Major Ridge, a leader in the Cherokee Nation. His 233-acre plantation supported numerous outbuildings, orchards, and slaves, while the family served as ferryboat operators and merchants. It was here the council negotiated the Treaty of New Echota in 1835, which promised the Cherokee land compensation for voluntarily moving to Oklahoma. Right. Their forced removal became known as the Trail of Tears. Ridge knew death was imminent for selling tribal lands, but believed the treaty to be the only means to save his people. He probably got mad rich off of it or something like that. He, his son, and nephew were never mind. He was probably told he was going to get rich or something like that. Okay, and then here's the log cabin right here, right? It's, again, like if you've been paying attention to what I've been saying, it's white paneling, white siding on top of a granite or brick, concrete, very well built structure. Numerous outbuildings. That was like the home. That's a really nice home to have right now. Like extremely nice to have even right now. And also had numerous outbuildings, orchards, and slaves. And then also ferryboat operators and merchants were part of the family. So like well off, very. And this is the Cherokee Nation tribe, the Cherokee Indian tribe, the Teepee people. Okay, so with that point in mind, I come back here and continue reading. So the area was of vital importance to Native American tribes. The Delaware, Shawnee, okay, all the tribes, were among those said to have lived at Nelson Ledges. The park lies near the highest points of the state. Okay, this is interesting. I'm going to get into this. The area developed into an important agricultural and dairy center. Cheesemaking was prominent. I actually drove by a sign for a cheesemaking factory, and I need to look into that one, and I will. By and if it's good stuff, I'll make a video. By 1834, Northeast Cheese, Ohio controlled the southern markets. Okay, it should be good, because if they controlled that much, then I'm sure we're likely going to see a castle if there's still pictures around of it. The Nelson Kennedy region has always been a very popular vacation spot and eventually came under state protection. The remarkable sandstone cliff formations resulted from the forces of erosion, wind, water freezing, and thawing. That wore away at the softer rock layers. As these soft layers eroded, large blocks of rock called slump blocks fell away, leaving more resistant layers to form ledges above. The town of Hiram, west of the park, is home to Hiram College, where James A. Garfield, 20th President of the United States, was educated. Okay, Hiram College is, man, wait till you guys see. The ledges that we're looking at, the wall, I believe is the wall that anciently protected the city of Hiram or something like that. Or Hiram City has been built on top of whatever city used to be there. But I think because like this wall down here is, like I said, a wall, not just some ledges formed by what they're saying. And then you've got this insane city just like right up above the hill. I'll show you guys the hill. And the reason that they purchased it and put it under state protection, aka state control, is because they wanted to preserve it for future generations to enjoy. What happened to the last generations that enjoyed? I want answers to that question. March 1913 flood. Significant Ohio floods. We are on weather.gov. In late March 1913, rain fell in such excess over the Ohio Valley that no river in Ohio and most of Indiana remained in its banks. Bridges, roads, railways, dams, and property were washed away. In its wake, at least 6,000 lost their lives, 600, making it one of the worst natural disasters the United States had witnessed. Here's a little picture. Everything buried, everything flooded, and even right up to the bridges. There's also a couple here. 96, there's a 90, there's a 64, a 59. So I mean, how many were there before that? And just to give you an idea of the size of the area we're talking about, right here I have marked Nelson Kennedy Ledge State Park, the park we're talking about. This is the city Hiram I'm talking about, where there's the college I'm talking about, and then this is where I think the wall. So this is where the wall would be, right here, big wall. I think it actually extends, the wall extends quite a bit. I think it kind of runs. And they actually say that right here. They say most of the outcrops elsewhere have been covered with soil and rock left behind by receding glaciers. See, they're saying it's receding glaciers, but we've also got evidence of these floods right here that clearly also brought in tons of mud and buried stuff. So supposedly 1916 right here, they built this. Whoa, what are we looking at here? What the heck is this? And it's buried, a lot of it's buried. But if we read up a little further here, contributing library, Library of Congress, the text appearing after the image, in 85 the school was removed to a new building on the present site. But unfortunately, only half completed. This building was totally destroyed by fire and air. Okay, I don't have the date on this one, but I mean, look at these. Wouldn't those be amazing buildings to see? And this is right outside, just right to the west of that radius I drew. It sits just right outside of that, so just still in the same area. Let's see, again, this one's inside the radius. Look at this. Another courthouse, a city hall, a seminary, a church, a high school, a town hall, another tiny courthouse. Just another little courthouse with another little something next to it. Just a reminder that this was carved out by a glacier millions, maybe billions of years ago. Another county courthouse, another county courthouse, another county courthouse. Column and a church and some other big building back here. And what we built? Can you guess what that is? Look at that. Can you guess what that is? School. School. Not sure on this one. This isn't in the area, but let's just pay some respect here. This is the Ohio State Armory. I mean, would you like to see the Ohio State Reformatory? Impressive stairway? No. Impressive columns inside? Mm-mm. Oh, and then here are just the administration buildings of the State Reformatory. Now here's a look at the Nelson Kennedy Ledge State Park. Okay, so this first small hill right here that we're going to go down, or going down it right now, right up here, this is the wall. Right over here to the left, this is the actual state park, but this whole thing is the wall, and we're actually going to drive over it and then take a left to go to the parking lot and park. So here I'm sitting on top of the wall, and then I drive down it, and then I take a left, and that brings me to right here in the state parking lot, and you can see there is a wall right there. There you can see it, a little better angle. And if already in just the past couple hundred years on record there's been a couple of major floods, you know, again, going back however many years from that point, there could have been so many more. So this wall could be extremely tall and very, very buried. Of course, saw a little bit of this in the sky, windy not. So on their signs, we get the same story as what we just got online. literally a word-for-word copy. And here's a look at the map, and they even show you right here on the map. They highlight the park right here, but they show you in the actual, I think it's called topography, you can see that the wall, the rockiness, still continues. And so I don't know exactly how far it goes, but it definitely goes a ways. And I totally forgot to mention, I should have mentioned this earlier, but in between the ledges and the Hiram College is that Nelson circle that I did the video, my last video on, which is this right here. So as you're driving, literally from the ledges to the park, you hit this center right here. I did a whole video on it. Here's a historical monument in Nelson, Ohio. Flip this around and give you guys a look in a second, but basically what we have here, I was just driving through, it's a big roundabout with, there's one, there's one, there's one, there's this monument, and then there's a school behind the tree there too, so give you a look. So in between the castle walls to the top of the kingdom, this is on the way. And I thought at the top of the hill, it really gave you a really good perspective of how round everything becomes out there in the distance. You know, just. So to me, the main giveaway is what we start to see right here, what I start to show you here, which is just the stacking. Again, I think at one point the wall was made of big blocks stacked on top of each other, very tall, very high, and floods and fires came through. And I don't know, maybe other types of disasters as well. And over long periods of time has left this. So if you keep seeing these, they've got different trails marked with different colors, red being the most difficult, and then I think they had a blue and a green or something like that. But pretty cool walking through here. And then when you think of how much is buried, these had to just be the most massive walls. And there's all sorts of cliffs and little ravines. Honestly, a super cool place to visit and extremely underrated. It took me a little bit being here to actually figure out that this place existed. And then like we see right here, you know, with all that mud and water coming in and flooding and burying everything, inside of that, it sure looks like there's some seed and some life that starts to grow and just starts to grow right on top of it. Just like we did when we showed up, just started to build right on top of it. And then at the bottom, again, not at the very, very bottom, because who knows how far down this stuff actually goes, but there's different spots where you can stand on a bottom, and there's even a couple spots where some water is running. And it gets pretty cold down there too. So this was really interesting. My take on this is they put a bunch of this inside of, like, however they formed the cement, bricks, blocks, stones, whatever, they used a lot of this inside of it and then mixed it up with something else. And so I think this is just like the inside being exposed, and on some of the other parts of the wall, you know, it just hasn't been ripped away enough or has been polished, whatever, for some reason. And then I came across this guy, and I thought this would be a good one to try and just get an idea of how much, like I'll show you in a second, there's some better pictures of maybe what the size of these blocks were. Because like these bottoms I think the bottom ones right here, I think maybe each one of those is its own block, or maybe we're seeing it like several blocks right here fused together through fire, and I mean you can see the signs of fire on it. Yeah, anyways, I just wanted to see how heavy we talking here, because if the wall, for how buried the wall is and how big these are, I'm thinking, how would you even, you know, how do you make it all, but how do you move it all, and then how do you lift it all? And it was pretty heavy. As you could see, I could just budge it, but that was the best I could do. If I really wanted to, I could have thrown it off that little ledge, you know, moved it enough to get it off the ledge, but there's no picking that up and taking it anywhere. I don't think, especially the size of even just these big blocks right here, I don't think there's throwing that on the back of a wood wagon and a horse pulling it. This is where I noticed, oh, you can clearly see signs on these little pebbles that are on. So I think what happened is these were full blocks, got chunked off, and then these got exposed, and then these got burned. And you can clearly see the burn marks on them. And I'm sure there's You know, those are probably glacier burns, but this one is, I don't know what the, I don't know, I don't know here, but I know it's interesting. All the different colors. Like this definitely burnt, but for some reason right here it doesn't look like it got burnt. I don't know. Again, no clue here. And then also what this structure might have been. Maybe this was a tower. Yeah, maybe that. Maybe, you know how castles run along and then they've got little towers shooting up? Maybe something like that. I don't know. I mean, just look how perfectly straight that is. I mean, just imagine how big this must have been. The height and the thickness. But the height and the thickness. So here's a guy climbing around down there. Just to give you a little idea of how big these things are and how far down they can go. I mean, if you wanted to, I'm sure you could find spots and just keep working your way down. Who knows how far. I thought this section was pretty cool right here. I mean, you can really see how blocky stuff is. I mean, if I were to guess, I'd guess something like that, but squared up really nicely. I think these have been through a lot and have been chipped away and eroded and flooded and just beat up. But I think originally maybe a bit bigger, something like that, and just nice square big blocks. Then how the heck would you move that weight and stack that weight, and with such precision lines for miles and miles? And I'll throw this in real quick as a little bonus. This is right across the street from where I'm staying. I believe this is an old tower of like an old castle type of thing. Again, I'm saying castle, I'm sure that maybe these weren't all castles, maybe they, but I don't know. Just this is the word I'm using to explain these buildings that to me look like castles. So turned it into just a old barn silo. And you can see right here that there is some metal in there. And again, you can see it looks like they've used smaller, chunkier rocks in the mix to create the whole concrete that they're using. And then right here you can see more leftover, much older rock. So I believe what we're seeing is everything's flooded and we're just seeing the top leftovers of whatever building was previously here. Then we showed up and we started building with our wood on top of it as best we could. And this guy just happened to be sitting here, and so use it to throw stuff in or whatever, you know. And you can see right here when I zoom in into it, you can see the rock foundation in there. Just still, it goes much deeper, much, much deeper.